Hello and welcome to a show with no name. I'm Marlon Weems, publisher of The Journeyman, here with my man Arturo Dominguez, who is
Looking for
the
trouble.
publisher of Decolonized Journalism. And man, we are out to get in some trouble tonight.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on. Okay, where do
Yeah.
we start? Where do we start? Can
Man,
I?
that's a good one. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll just, you know me. I'm a ex-trader, still living vicariously through Bloomberg Television. And so when we have these energy shocks, man, this is like my Super Bowl. You know, I'm
Yeah.
up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing all this. And so I am here to tell you, we closed at $100 a barrel crude oil, and that would be Brent, what we used to call Brent North Sea crude, right?
Yeah.
Not to be confused with West Texas Intermediate down in your neighborhood. That's landman oil right
Yeah.
there. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about, dude. I watch Landman. I like that show. But anyway, so I was listening to a person from your state just a minute ago. She was on Bloomberg Television. Her name was Kay Van Dyne, I believe, and it's kind of weird, VAN and then what DUYNE, I think, and she is on the Ways and Means Committee, and I'm telling you, Democrats got to get their shit together because this woman, it was like she put these poor straight journalist people on Bloomberg in a trance.
Yeah.
Just the way she was just rapid fire. Every other word was Biden or Big Beautiful Bill. And she started talking about the real problem, what isn't what's going on now. It was Biden and his $5 a gallon gas. And I was like, we haven't had any $5 a gallon gas. Well, turns out actually we have for a minute, right when Russia hit Ukraine or invaded Ukraine. And it was 2022. We're just coming out of this COVID shock. So now we got another shock and gas spiked for a minute. I'm here to tell you, there ain't shit Biden could do about that because natural gas, oil, those crude oil, those are commodities. They respond. In fact, I'm actually writing something about this. Hopefully it'll be out tonight. But that's what's going on, man. They're now trying to figure out how to explain the inexplicable. Why did we go and hit this fucking hornet's nest? Why did we do it?
It's one of the dumbest things ever to try to blame anything other than the Iran war on
Listen, she was blaming Biden for everything but her kids' grades. I was just sitting here in awe because they're so good at it. And it sounded true. And every other thing, the big beautiful bill's gonna fix all of this. We're not really worried about gas prices. And I'm like, how's the big beautiful bill gonna make gas prices go down? So dude, it's a lot. And I have to tell you, I may have this video on queued up. Do you remember Lawrence Wilkerson? This guy used to be, back when I guess it would have been during the time that George W. Bush was in office. This guy was a chief of staff for Colin Powell. And so he's out, on the internet now. And, I'll keep looking, man. I'm going to have to clean up my library on my computer of stuff I've got on the cloud. But to paraphrase what this guy said was this. Basically, folks aren't telling us what's going on with regard to how formidable Iran is. And he said that it is to, he said it's to the point that he was looking at video, not coming from network TV, but stuff a guy like him. And I think he's like a major general or something, you know, really high up.
Right.
And he said that he saw a video of some of these hypersonic missiles, I guess, that Iran has, just hitting this Iron Dome, basically beating the shit out of it. He said within a minute's time, which I would imagine is really long when you get bombed. And he said that at a certain point, it was nothing but incoming and no response from Israel. And he said, you're not going to hear it on TV because they're not going to talk about it. He said, but we're getting a whole lot more than we expected from Iran.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, a lot of people in the geopolitical game have warned about this, that Iran can strike at multiple targets at once. And you know, they've had 40 years of preparing for this day, whereas the United States has been walking around like a big bad bully, talking trash about how we're the most powerful army in the world while we're losing wars all over the place. So, you know, it's this whole...
Wait a minute, man. We ain't lost no wars.
Oh, come on now. But no, it's the whole idea of this American exceptionalism, right? Like we're so big and badass that there's nothing other people can do. And Iran may not be able to hit us at home, but they can hit all our bases in the Middle East. And
that's correct.
You know, poking that hornet's nest. I mean, this is a lot of what people in this game, in the geopolitical game, have warned about. Like, it's just amazing to me that with all the intelligence the U.S. has, the White House chose to ignore that. And
keyword intelligence.
Right. Well, there you go. And they honestly,
I think we could probably stop right there and just focus on intelligence for a minute. Not a lot of that going around in the White
House. They took the Putin approach. Like, this will be over in a matter of days. And man, Israel's getting its ass kicked. I mean, anybody who has U.S. bases where they launched missiles from is getting their asses kicked. And I mean, you know, Iran's going, you know, battle, you know, tit for tat. You bomb residential areas, we're going to bomb residential areas. You bomb our oil refineries, we're going to bomb your oil refineries. And they're playing that game. You escalate, we escalate. And at this point, they keep saying that they're trying to negotiate with Iran, and Iran is like,
no. Well, look, man, this is like, okay, you know me in gangster movies. You have killed the Dons. You've killed the Don, his wife, his brother, you know, all these people, and the only person left is Michael Corleone. You're not better off.
Yeah.
You're not better off at all. And I heard this, and I don't know if this is the case. So the new guy, what his name is, Khomeini or whatever it is. I heard they killed his child.
Yeah, his child,
but it was like, I'm talking about like infant child.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if that's
his
me,
whole family, almost his whole family.
So mom, dad, child, brother-in-law, all these, probably a whole bunch of his friends.
Yeah, his wife. Yeah, somebody said it in the comments. His wife too.
Yeah. What has he got to fucking lose? Because I'm telling you, dude, if it was me, I'm sure you'd be the same. It'd be like one of these movies, man. I would be nothing would be off the table. And I'm just a guy. We're talking about, I just don't, the problem is that America is so insular with the way we consume information that we've got this really just a view of the world outside of America that is not, it's what we would like it to be, maybe, where we're the baddest shit out there and nobody can ever fuck with us. And y'all have to excuse me. This is, I think this is my 7th live this week. So I've been putting in work, man.
Yeah.
So I am through with, you know, formality and all that kind of stuff, because this is crazy. Now, I found Wilkerson. It's a really short clip, but I think it's worth playing. So I'll let it go and then we'll talk after.
All right.
video this morning, real video, not CNN, though they have been better, but real video out of Israel. They are getting absolutely pummeled.
That was to be my next question. How badly is Israel getting pummeled? And where is Netanyahu?
I think he's on a plane 90% of the time. He's flying around. He's flying around the Mediterranean. I understood he was on a private jet coming into Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump. I don't know if that's true or not, but my source is pretty good. He's staying out of the fray as best he can because he knows that he is number one target.
How badly are the Iranians damaging Tel Aviv?
Very badly, very badly. And it is relentless. It's not a fuselage. It's relentless. And increasingly, and in the latter stages of this 15-minute video, you could see that fewer and fewer air defense missiles were going up. And at the end of it, in the last 60 seconds, which is a long time, Judge, if you're under fire, there were no Israeli missiles going up. The Iranian missiles were just getting in.
Wow. Wow.
It's all being lied about, of course. You can't get this out. You can't even get it out of Al Jazeera or Al Arabiya. They're not allowed to film this sort of thing because he's got a wrapped down tight ban on anybody coming in there and making film other than his own propaganda people.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, there it is, man. Now, that is not like some internet influencer. That's a real military guy. I would say a very credible guy.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. And I guess he was talking to Napolitano, who I don't particularly follow, but, you know, let the chips fall where they are. I mean, or where they may.
I mean,
you know,
he's right about Tel Aviv it's being devastated right now. And, you know, Iran's intentional use of cluster bombs is in direct retaliation of Israel using phosphorus munitions in Lebanon. And I don't know if people are aware of what phosphorus does, but phosphorus literally burns through your skin, your bone, it burns you from the inside out. It's a brutal death, and that's why it's
illegal.
It is illegal. But yeah, and Israel used it at the beginning of the war on Gaza, and I remember asking the Biden administration about the use of phosphorus, and they wouldn't comment on anything that hadn't been validated. And I'm like, well, here's the video. There's only one weapon that does this. And they refuse to respond. And then the very next day, you have all the NGOs from all over the world, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, all of them confirming that they were using phosphorus weapons. And again, the Biden administration refused to say anything about it. And when you don't challenge these things, because if Israel commits a war crime, that by default automatically cuts off their military funding.
Right.
So Matt Miller, the spokesman for Biden's State Department, said a few months ago, or maybe a little under a year ago, that they didn't want to bring up the war crimes issue because they would have to cut funding off for Israel. And, that was a very telling interview when he said that. And I'm pretty sure that's probably why he hasn't done any media since, because he got roasted for that. And, his excuse was, we were following the administration's policy guidelines. And
how can the policy guideline be, we're going to let them go ahead and commit war crimes? Right. We just won't say
So when Iran starts dropping cluster bombs on Tel Aviv, that's why they're retaliating for. So I think it was Amnesty International or maybe Human Rights Watch just put out something, I think it was today, that so many thousand residential structures have been hit. I mean, we're talking thousands, like 6,000.
And this is in Tel Aviv?
No, in Iran.
Oh, okay.
And Iran is retaliating because they're striking residential stuff. They're retaliating by doing the same thing. So, they're going tit for tat. And like, if we're going to escalate, they're going to escalate. And I just don't. Yeah. And, all they've done is unify Iranians against the U.S. Like,
well, think about it. What? A month ago, Trump was not even. He was telling, people, get out on the streets and overthrow your government. Well, when I am out here and literally, I have read and heard stories from credible sources saying that, people are reporting like literally oil coming up out of the sewer, on fire and all of this, the various toxins and smoke. And guess what? Whoever did that, I'm not trying to help them.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's so
Right.
backwards in the thinking. I just can't really get my mind around it.
Yeah, like you can't say you're liberating somebody while dropping bombs on them. I mean, how is blowing people to smithereens
Dude,
liberating?
it's crazy talk.
It is. It really is.
It's
I mean,
just crazy talk.
It's the whole 1984 War is Peace nonsense. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't understand where this logic comes from. It's the same thing I say about Cuba all the time. You can't starve people for 70 years and expect them to be your friends.
It's just something. I mean, I don't. We have been able, we as in America, we have been able to get away with this whole mythology of us being the world's policeman, right? Where we're the ones, coming in, we're the cop that comes in and take care of the bad guys. And it feels like, a lot of this stuff isn't new to me, but I think it is to the average American, where they're beginning to see that maybe America hasn't always been the good guy.
I struggle to think of any time America was the good guy, except for maybe coming in to shore up World War II.
I was just going to say World War II. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we shored up the Allies at the end of the war, and, we took all the credit for being the good guy. And you saw the outrage when Donald Trump said that other countries didn't make the sacrifices we made in the war. And dude, European countries lost their shit for that. And rightfully so. Yeah, rightfully so. It's just, I don't know, the outright ignorance and again, the incompetence of this administration is exposing so much of what what we do around the world that, like you said, this might not be new to us, but it's definitely new to a lot of people. And
especially a lot of younger people, because
right.
The exceptionalism myth has been, ever since I was a little kid, right? I mean, that's just we're so quick to talk about people being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
But I came up in the era of segregated schools, but here you are, you're in a segregated school, but you still pledging allegiance, America the Beautiful, and singing all the songs, and you just think we're the good guys. And I tell you, man, I think there's going to be I think it's happening. There's a rude awakening. I actually pulled up something from Jeffrey Sachs. You probably know who he is.
Yeah. Love Sachs.
Sachs, man, he's one of these guys, especially a white guy, to be honest with you. And he's one of these guys that I am fearful that something's going to happen to this guy, because he is so just on point with his commentary. Now, so Jeffrey Sachs is an economist. He's a professor at Columbia University. And the reason I wanted to do this is I ran across something where he sort of breaks down the backstory of Iraq and why it is, these guys is in Wake Up Hating America. Okay.
Right.
They
Right.
kind of have a reason. I'll let it play. It's a short clip. We'll talk on the other side.
A functioning democratic government in 1953, led by Prime Minister Mossadegh. Mossadegh's idea in 1953 was that the oil that was under the ground actually belonged to the Iranians, where the British knew that it belonged to the British. So when the Iranian Prime Minister, democratically elected, said, "This is our oil, it's under our ground," the British government knew that it had to overthrow him. And it connected with the U.S. government, and they made a secret operation to overthrow Mossadegh and to install the Shah of Iran and to make a police state under U.S. control. If you add up all such regime change operations by the United States between 1945 and 1989, at the end of the Cold War, 64 covert regime change operations by the United States, mostly CIA-led.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there it is. So I was in college in the late 70s when the Shah fell. I went to school with lots of people from the Middle East, a lot of Iranians. They referred to themselves as Persians. So as a matter of fact, my little ass from Little Rock, Arkansas, talking to one of these guys at the time and referred to him as an Arab. And I thought it was over. It was almost like the N-word to him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm Persian, so I'm no expert on, the reasons behind that, but that they did not want to be called Arabs. So anyway, my point is they were protesting at the University of Arkansas in the 70s against the Shah of Iran. And, you grow up hearing about the Shah of Iran. It sounds like he's a pretty cool dude. And, you'd see pictures of him in the golden throne and all this opulence and stuff. And you just figured everybody liked him. They did not.
Right.
And dozens of students, marching outside the university, the student union and stuff like that. But what I recall most is that they all wore pillowcases over their heads so they couldn't be identified because they were fearful, not even so much that something would happen to them, but their families back home.
Yeah.
Because most of the Iranians that I ever knew at the University of Arkansas came from some significant wealth, and these were like princes. In fact, there was a cat we used to hang out with, a little side story, and he had the best weed. I just put it like, the guy had the best weed, and it was coming from somewhere not in America. And, hey, it's the 70s. I'm sure the statute of limitations has run. But no, this dude, we would hang out with this guy, and, here I am, well on my way to flunking out of college. So, we're hanging out at his place, and he had, I don't know, you may not be old enough to remember this. He had like a Firebird Camaro, like with the bird on the hood back.
Yeah.
This is
My dad
70s
had one
with the T-tops, all of them, dude. They were all riding around, and we're like, who are these rich dudes? Anyway, he graduated, but he wouldn't go home. He didn't want to go back. He had, gotten over here and gotten a taste of America. And dude, I was at his place one day and some people showed up. And they were like, where's Jason? Because, that's the other thing. They all adopted like, sort of Americanized names. So Mustafa was really Frankie, and that's
right.
Yeah, they came and got this guy. And we never saw him again. Now, I don't think it was anything other than maybe his family was like, no, you're coming home and take your place doing whatever it is, whatever his role was. But yeah, a little side story.
I mean, maybe he overstayed his visa. Who knows?
Who knows, man? But they disappeared old Jason.
Right. One of the things I find interesting, though, is, and again, this is just like Cuba, but they accuse the current Iranian regime of a lot of the things that happened under the Shah.
Really?
And yeah, this whole, like the protesters wearing pillowcases and being worried about being identified and being targeted here in the U.S. They accuse Iran of doing that all the time. They accuse China of doing it. They accuse Cuba of doing that, and they did for a long time. And I just don't know what to believe anymore. I know that Iran has a pretty extensive and clandestine type of, security apparatus and spies and all that stuff. And I know that they, I've seen interviews with like Hell's Angels bikers and stuff, even Hell's Angels in Canada, who have been approached by Iranians to conduct hits on people.
Wow.
And some of these guys did it. Some of these guys did it. And, they didn't care who it was. They just, they're there for the money. They're hitmen. That's what they do. And, I don't doubt that stuff happens, but, we can't pretend that it didn't happen before, right? Like
we can't pretend that we don't do it.
Right. Like
we're always killing folks, man.
Right. We disappear
I mean,
people all the time.
we
Yeah.
always, well, man, just unfortunate accidents and plane
Oh yeah.
crashes, and especially down in South America. I'm trying to think of, some of the, what we would, leftist, folks that won democratically, but we didn't like, what they represented, and next thing you know, guys, plane is crashing, or
Yeah, I mean they tried to assassinate Hugo Chavez. They said he was a dictator, and he was
Oh,
duly
yeah.
elected multiple times with like
Castro
70,
as well.
80%.
I mean,
Yeah, Castro. They tried to
look, man,
assassinate
I
him.
feel like we need to say this. I do, maybe. I'm not particularly a fan of Iran.
No, I mean,
but we attacked them, and I'm looking at it like, okay, if there was some really hard evidence, they would have shown it.
right.
If there was some really, some
Right.
overwhelming evidence that these guys were about to do some shit to us, or, there was there was something, but it's really hard when just 6 months ago you said you destroyed all their capability. You're in the middle of negotiation with somebody and you bomb their country, and then you say, okay, now come on back to the table and let's work it out. No, that is just not the way it goes, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird because, like, somebody mentioned in the comments just now about, how stuff's oppressive for Iranian women in Iran, and
Yeah.
no question, right? We
But
don't
you know
doubt
what?
that.
But you know
The
what?
thing is,
Saudi Arabia is no paradise for women.
right,
And somehow we get around it with them.
right. And here's the thing: like, there's been this narrative presented that Iran just hates our freedom, just the same as everybody in the Middle East hates our freedom, and that's just not true at all. You've seen world leaders from everywhere say that they don't have beef with the American people; it's our government.
So let me ask you a question. Are there other countries, and I don't mean China and Russia, but how do other countries deal with Iran? Are they basically sort of, the same as us, where they just don't mess with them, or how is that?
Well, basically, they abide by international law and don't get involved in Iran's internal politics. So, they do trade deals. They, work on things and
Okay.
partnership on stuff. And, particularly China has a real strong position on not interfering with another country's internal affairs. That is the biggest and most appealing thing about China investing in another country. In Latin America, like in Venezuela, China's been installing, oil rigs, like in Lake Maracaibo. They have a floating oil rig in there that produces, I can't remember how much it was, but it's not a tremendous amount. But China has oil facilities in Venezuela. They don't meddle in their internal politics. Same in Africa, same in with Iran. The Belt and Road Initiative, like all that stuff. Like that's what makes China so appealing, because when it comes to the United States, an investment in your country requires you, like we just saw with Ecuador, who kicked out the Cubans and then automatically opened up an FBI office. And, that country's run by a damn narco dictator over there. So, to get money from the United States requires you to open your country to them and allow them to do what they do within your borders. And that's a big turnoff for most of the world. They're tired of this imperialist nonsense. And I hate to say it, but yeah, that's what makes China so appealing. The money and the construction, the stuff that China puts out without interfering in your internal affairs. And that's basically the position with Iran.
Some years ago, when I was still in Arkansas, I had started. So this would have been in the mid 90s, maybe 94. So Clinton was president. And I had occasion, because I had this investment firm, and, anytime anybody important came to town that was Black, they would connect with us. We were really at this time just starting out. And the president of Ghana was in America for some reason, and the first lady of Ghana was kind of touring America, just seeing, you know, she'd never been here. So at some point she wanted to see where, you know, where's the president from? I want to go there. So she comes to Arkansas, comes to Little Rock. And, you know, fast forward, my firm ends up sort of hosting them, you know, because I had like a half a floor, you know, I had office space, conference rooms, all that stuff. So she had an entourage, and it was the first lady and trade minister, the ambassador to the U.S. from Ghana. All these people, I met them, and they probably stayed in Little Rock maybe a week and a half. So, you know, we're having dinner every night and getting to know a lot about their culture. This was in the 90s. They were already so tied in with China for all the reasons you're talking about. China was building roads. China
Right.
was making, they were making these loans, and I'm not talking about, you know, World Bank loans that you can't ever pay off or any of this, you know, no. Just, I mean, they were a partner. And you know, we're talking again, 1995, my whole worldview about America's standing and place in the world and whatever was dramatically different.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a Republican per se. I've always been a Democrat. I've voted for Republicans, but it was really a shock. And the way it came out, because my company was set up, I was trying to do some import export business. Arkansas is one of the biggest rice producers, if not, I mean, I'm sure China is up there. Arkansas is close to the top.
Right.
And at one time, Riceland Foods was the biggest producer of rice, certainly in the country, maybe in the world at one time. So I was trying to, you know, I had the connections to monopolize on that. So I was talking to them about it. They're buying their rice from China. And the way it came out, these guys, you know, I thought we're going to take them out for a steak dinner, you know, really, you know what, dude? They wanted to go to a Chinese restaurant. These dudes, no, it wasn't. They said that the Chinese sort of their menu of the way they eat is very similar to the way folks in Ghana eat, you know, chicken, fish,
Right.
and rice. And so, yeah, every time they would, and the ambassador actually made a few trips back to Arkansas, because I think it was kind of like a vacation for him. He could go hang out. Nobody knew who he was, you know, and we would set up meetings for him and all that kind of thing. But every time these guys wanted to go to a Chinese restaurant. Go figure. I mean, and that was in 1995, 94. So just fast forward and think, if they had that relationship then, just think about how like woven in China is to Africa.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, when you go to Africa, dude, all you see, you know, are these BYD EVs and Chinese EVs all over the place. And we think that we can convince everybody that shit is bad, you know,
Right.
because Americans don't go anywhere.
Right.
You know, they go to another state, but they don't. I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody. I have rarely been outside of the United States, but I guess I'm different in the sense that I do, you know, this kind of thing gives us the ability to see outside of where we actually are physically. So, but yeah, man, it's I think we really, really missed it over the last several decades in terms of the way we have handled these relationships.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat on YouTube says that I'm CIA, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, they said the guy on the right. I'm assuming that's me.
Okay.
But no, somebody in the comments on Substack said that a plane went down over Iraq. And I'm like,
wait, now what? A plane went down? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, look, there it is. The guy on the right is CIA.
Yeah, man. That's why it's a show with no name. We're not really telling y'all. No, it's just a show with no name.
Yeah, there you go.
Down,
I mean, I am a former Homeland Security contractor. Granted, it was for FEMA. Yeah. It was for FEMA.
Man, but... you know what? Yeah, this is kind of sounding a little bit like well, we'll leave it there, man.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that.
CIA, huh? That's interesting.
Casey, Oh, they said it's a KC-135, a refueling plane. So it's a military plane that went down over
Ooh.
Iraq.
Wow. U.S.
Oh, not enemy fire. Rescue underway. That's what it says in the comments. I'm getting breaking news from the comments.
So hang on a second. So what we're saying is a refueling plane went down.
Yeah, there's an AP
Friendly
link.
fire?
Friendly fire, I'm guessing, or maybe an accident. They said it wasn't enemy fire.
Well, they're gonna say that.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
think
that's
about it.
true.
Why would they say anything else? These
That's
guys
true.
are lying so hard, man. I have to give it to them. If
You know-
there was a prize for just the ability to just lie nonstop, these dudes got it hands down.
Yeah,
I've never seen this kind of lying.
One of the things I found pretty shocking too was, we all knew that like they were lying about casualties in the Middle East, right? Injured.
Man, this person has started some, Arturo.
That
Now here comes somebody. Yeah.
So I think it's a shame because there's a lot of casualties, a lot of injured, a lot of wounded U.S. soldiers from the Middle East, and by hiding that information from the public, they're also hiding it from the families.
Mm-hmm.
So how many people died and how many people got injured and their families weren't notified right away?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this is just, the whole thing just shows just how little this administration cares about not just human life in general, but our own troops, our own soldiers that they're putting in harm's way. Why would you hide that other than to try to portray this image that you're winning a battle that you're clearly losing?
Well, think about Vietnam, dude.
Well, yeah.
Okay, here's the story. This is coming from the Washington Post. It's 14 minutes ago. U.S. Air Force refueler crashes in Iraq while supporting the Iran war. And it says that apparently it was an accident involving a KC-135 tanker and another aircraft.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it says Central Command, which oversees military operations in the Middle East, says it's in a brief statement that the second aircraft landed safely and they were, in the middle of a rescue operation. It says the incident was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. They just got up there and had a wreck, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you something that came my way a few days ago, and I'm not like you. I'm not used to having like sources, but a guy that used to work on my desk is a good friend, talk to him all the time. He's ex-military. He's now, he's been a Wall Street guy for probably 20 years, but that's his background. He's ex-military. His dad was military, and so on. So he and I, we talk at least 2 or 3 times a week. So we're talking over the weekend, and he says, look, man, I just talked to somebody who's active, and they're telling me Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, there's a big, a very large hospital there. I've heard, I think it's maybe the biggest hospital that's not in the United States, military hospital.
Right.
And I know every time we have like a hostage released from Russia or like, what was it? The basketball player, Brittany Griner, the first place they take them is to Germany to, medical examination, all that kind of stuff. So this guy says, he's telling me, I know I'm looking at these comments. It's silly.
I'm head scratching.
We're not gonna,
it's a signal. I'm head scratching.
Don't get distracted. It's your body language, man.
I'm just laughing. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so what happens? This guy tells me, he says, look, and this was Saturday. He says that the CIA has just taken a whole floor in this hospital and declared it top secret, so they can move people in and out, and nobody really knows where they got injured. And if they died in Germany, right? And so I'm like, okay, I believed he was telling me what he heard, but I didn't really put it out there because I was like, boy, and lo and behold, what do we hear just a couple of days ago, all these casualties that we didn't know anything about. And the second it came out, my phone pings, told you so. So yeah, I think I got a little source, man. I'll let next time. I'll put it this way. Next time I might be a little bit more liberal, pardon the pun, with sharing that information. But yeah, it's crazy out there. It's really, really crazy.
It's interesting because Iran was claiming they hit some CIA facilities, and everybody's denying that. You know, there are no CIA facilities out there. We all know there is. There's CIA facilities everywhere. And then, you know, you mentioned this a couple days ago when we did the live stream, the announcement, and I kept thinking to myself, damn, they were right. They must have hit a CIA facility, because why else would they take up a whole
about
floor?
Dubai?
Yeah, like maybe Iran hit Dubai. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, look, all of these places like this, y'all watch TV. I mean, it's pretty, there are going to be, you know, everywhere we've got an embassy, there is going to be some sort of CIA presence. That's just the way it's done. Right.
Yeah.
And we're not, you know, we didn't invent nothing new. Every country does this.
Right.
Remember back, I want to say it was in 2016. Yeah, it was in 2016 when Obama like shut down all this gigantic, I want to call it a compound almost, of Russian spies that were in the country, and they were like posing as ambassadors or diplomats rather. And just you notice, didn't arrest them, just shut them down, get out of the country. And that's the way we deal with each other, you know, country to country. But everybody's got spies. We ain't you know, and some spies are better than others. And
I've seen a lot of stuff, you know, documentaries about spy stuff. And, you know, it seems like there's this kind of like a competition between countries to see who can outspy each other. And they all know their like lives are at risk, that, you know, people, you know, can get killed, or they might end up dead or whatever. But, you know, it's that way with the cybersecurity world, where they're trying to out hack each other and hack into each other's stuff. And, you know, it's kind of funny, because as deadly as these people are, they're pretty lighthearted about what they do and the risks they take.
I think they have to be.
I guess you do.
You have to do that kind of stuff. You got to know at any, you know, one slip, and you could just be maybe not dead, but just renditioned off somewhere and never seen again.
Right. Yeah. The whole black sites thing, man. We have so many black sites. It's crazy.
Dude. So I got a funny story for you. When I was in high school, I wasn't a good student at all. I was a C student. And I went to a church that was right across. Well, I went to a couple of churches. You wouldn't know it now, but I did used to go to church. And I even sang in the choir. But I went to this Episcopal church. It was right across the street from my house. And one day after church, this guy, I'd seen him. I never really talked to him. Mr. Hook comes up to me and tries to recruit me, dude. He was trying to recruit me for the FBI. I was in the 12th grade. And I was like, I need to go ask my daddy. You know, I didn't know what to say to this. Yeah, he was serious. He really tried to put the clothes on me to join the FBI. So it's just, see, everybody thinks it's you that's in the CIA. We're looking on the wrong side of the you're looking at the wrong side of the picture, you know.
It's crazy though that they were like trying to recruit somebody straight out of high school like that. Dude, just like the military does.
A cat that was a good friend of mine got recruited actually into the CIA, and we all wondered, kind of, after you graduate, I was in Pine Bluff, and then we moved back to Little Rock, so you lose track with folks. And I don't know, man, I was married and had a kid, and one day I hear from this guy, and he had actually left the CIA kind of on a mental thing. It was like he had been like deep cover in some shit, and it just messed with him, and they just sent him home. And he was kind of messed up. Not like dangerous, but it was more along the lines of maybe, suicidal kind of thing. But yeah, the whole
Man, there's
time
no,
we didn't know where he went to school. Dude was in the CIA.
yeah, there's no telling what that person saw, what they went through. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh no, he didn't really, because he couldn't tell me anything, but the
Right.
stuff he alluded to, knowing him was just so, like it's almost like finding out like somebody's a superhero or something. You know what I mean? It's like this
yeah,
is not the guy that I'm looking at that we used to, ride our bicycles and shit through the neighborhood. And you telling me for the last 10 years you were a spy?
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And he kind of gave me enough, information to know it wasn't like he had just broken out of the mental facility.
Right.
He really had been, where he said, but it was enough that I was like, okay, that's enough for me to know. I don't want to know anymore
Yeah,
for my own personal protection.
right.
But yeah,
They
it's a
can't- they
scary
can't-
world, man. It's a
right.
really
They can't
scary
torture
world.
out of you what you don't know.
Yeah, I was like, dude, let's just leave me on right at the, right where too much line is.
You're right.
I
Cut it
want
off.
to be on the other side of it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I again, we get back to this war scenario, and like, I don't know, there's probably spies everywhere, but this whole notion of sleeper cells and Iran's going to attack California with drones. I mean, come on, man. We've been hearing sleeper cells since 9/11. It's been
Well,
25 years.
though? I
haven't found
don't
one.
think they need necessarily sleeper cells, because there are enough people, just like Trump, says a whole bunch of shit, and then you look up and, some crazy Trump supporter does something violent, right? Which incidentally, so I was talking to Ellie Leonard, and she was, she covers Jeffrey Epstein. This was yesterday. And
Yeah.
on that note, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but she digs into all these files, and I mean, she's like 24/7.
Yeah.
Digging through, combing through this stuff. And so we were talking about just how I was, kind of how strange it was that Epstein ends up with this roommate that looked like some kind of mafia bodybuilder looking dude. I actually read up on him, and he's, believe it or not, was a former policeman. And there's a whole story behind that guy. But she was telling me, in the short frame of time that Epstein was in jail, it was like 3 different roommates that he had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It was that guy, somebody else. And then it was, do you remember the guy that sent bombs to all the Democrats, like pipe bombs or something?
Yeah.
They were going to put that guy in with Epstein, apparently.
That's probably not a good idea.
You cannot tell me they were not trying to kill this guy.
Right.
They put the bomb guy in. They're going to put the bomb guy in with him. And they end up putting this dude that looked I mean, the guy looks like the Hulk or something.
Yeah.
And there's a story. The reason he's in jail was because he was a policeman, like I want to say in Westchester County. I'm going to find the video. There's a really crazy story about this guy. And he was clearly in cahoots with organized crime. He was like a guy that, you get out of line and he shows up and you think it's the policeman to help you, and he's there to just break your knees or do something crazy. And he ended up going to jail behind it, where apparently, like, he killed a bunch of people and buried them out in the woods, some Goodfellas stuff. And how does that guy end up being Epstein's roommate?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, man, I'm sorry, but I have been holding that one. I was like, I've been thinking about that all day. It's like, this is stuff out of a comic book.
I know this lady, right? And right after Epstein died, everybody was like, Epstein didn't kill himself, right? He was, and I was like, it's quite possible. But she was pushing back so hard. And, it's a white lady. She used to work in a medical examiner's office, and they did a lot of, examinations of people who died in prisons and in jails and stuff like that. And she was like, no, they do this all the time, and she tried to convince me. And look, I know some people who've been done some time. Okay. She tried to convince me that people commit suicide by trying to swallow their socks. And I said, no, those people were murdered. Like, nobody tries to
Really?
commit
It's
suicide
like,
by
how does that
swallowing a
work?
yeah,
Let me get
right.
this stock
I'm
and
like,
just end
no,
it all.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
What
That's
in the world?
not
No,
happening.
that's no, that's not really.
And that's when I started doubting her, because I get that some people have committed suicide the way they claim Jeffrey Epstein did, but I mean, I don't know. What was it? Bill Barr was there the
Look,
night
man,
before.
he went to see him a couple of days before,
Yeah, a couple
and yeah,
days.
Ellie is. We should bring her on here
Yeah.
with us and just. I'll see if I can make that happen, because she's very, very interesting. We even got off into some, stuff just because she's in New Jersey. I used to live in New Jersey for a minute, and just talking about the food and just she. She said that she lived in a neighborhood that looked like it came out of The Sopranos, and so I mean, which isn't a bad neighborhood, but
No.
also you got all these little social clubs and
Mhm.
and I lived in a part of New Jersey. I lived, just right across the river from Midtown.
Mhm.
And I go buy my cigars or whatever, and you walk in, and it's like these guys that they've been there since the place opened in the morning, and they're just sitting there, and they're speaking Italian, and they're smoking cigars, and you come in, and they whatever they were saying, they stop.
Yeah.
Like I could understand it, number one,
Right.
but
They don't
yeah,
know.
and it got where after maybe the second or third time, it's like, oh, he's okay. But I'm coming from work. I got on a suit. I'm black, and I'm walking in there, and they're like, okay, what's going on?
Get
Who's this
fed.
guy? Yeah, no, really, dude. I think they thought I might have been a Fed or something.
Yeah.
And they probably cruised down and checked my house out or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up in Union City in Jersey, at the corner of our block was a Cuban cigar shop.
Okay.
Union City, they called it Havana on the Hudson back then. And it was the same way. These old dudes, they'd be sitting outside in front or in the shop, and they're just there all day from the moment it opens
All
till
day.
it closes. And as soon as you walk by, because the door was always open, because they rolled the cigars in there.
Yeah.
And as you walk by, they get quiet. And as soon as you get to the corner and about to turn the corner, they start talking again. And it's just like, it's funny, but
I always thought it was funny that these guys thought I knew what they were talking about.
right.
Dude, no, I don't speak Italian, but
Right.
hey,
And
you never know.
there was a pretty heavy Italian presence in Union City too. And like there was a lot of that. The social clubs, like Cubans had social clubs up there, and they were more than likely criminal in nature, and that's what most of these social clubs in the Northeast are. It's just,
Man, I just you reminded me of a story. So I worked with a guy. I actually started an investment firm with this guy, and he's, I guess, in his own right, kind of famous now in a not a movie star kind of famous, but he has what's called a Spartan race. It's some of this extreme sports stuff.
oh
But
yeah.
years and years ago, when I was in New York, there was a cat. Do you remember Alan Hevesy? He had been like the comptroller, and then he ran for the way New York, I assume it still is, the comptroller controls like all the investment stuff.
Right.
And New York is the only state where one guy is over all of this stuff, right? And so they were doing a fundraiser for this guy. And it was at this dude's daddy's social club in Chinatown. I was like, social club. Dude,
Right.
Sure enough, it was on the corner, and it was like, like a bar. They, on the corner, but it wasn't like open to the public.
Right.
Okay. And it was, I mean, think about New York, man. You're on a corner, damn anywhere in New York. That's not a cheap place to be.
Right.
And so, yeah, and they had a fundraiser for this guy, and it was like hedge fund guys there and, pretty girls, and their guys are digging in their pockets, giving this guy money. And dude, I don't even think I think he ended up winning the election. I don't even think he finished his term before he went to jail.
I mean,
as crooked as he could be, man.
A fundraiser at a social club. The feds were watching.
Who
They
could
were
have seen
on
it coming, right?
Yeah. I mean, the feds know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like the social club that like some of my family, like my grandfather, was part of, was every wedding reception we ever did to was at the Catholic church, and the reception was at the social club.
At the social club.
They had this little bar, and it was private, and it was upstairs from a grocery store, and nobody was ever allowed to go there. But like, if we were on the block and we needed something, we'd go upstairs, run in there, grab something out of the fridge, and take off, and nobody would stop us, And but there was always old dudes in there playing cards,
Yep.
and that's all they did.
These
all
guys
and
at the
dominoes.
cigar place I was talking about, they'd be playing dominoes.
Yeah, dominoes. Yeah.
Dominoes. Yeah. And I like dominoes, but I never asked them to let me play.
Yeah,
I just got my stuff and went on about my business, man.
Somebody in the comments is talking about how they were selling pre-embargo Cuban cigars and like making $1,500 a month. And man, my brother.
When I was in Little Rock, I had a connection. Dudes were sending me Cuban cigars FedEx from Florida.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
For a long time. So for a long time, the rule was you couldn't exchange US currency for them. So it was easy for us to like send family some money in Cuba, and then they go buy a box of cigars later and then send us a box of cigars as a thank you. You know what I mean? And my brother made some bank selling them things for like $40, $50, $60 a pop. And I was like, damn, bro. And then they put an end to that. Like you couldn't.
Yeah, this was in the 90s. And then when I was in New York, a guy that was a colleague of mine, and he was Cuban, Afro-Cuban guy. And every Christmas he would give me some kind of Cuban rum.
Oh yeah.
That just was like, a shot and you were done. You were in good shape.
Yeah, dude, my stepdad brings some when he goes to Jamaica. He brings some Jamaican rum, and you're only allowed so many bottles through customs.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we nurse that stuff around here, and it's the same thing, dude. It's almost it's almost as potent as Everclear.
It's not like the stuff we get off the shelves here, for sure.
Yeah.
So man, to wrap up, what are you working on?
Right now I'm working on an article, covering authoritarianism, getting a grip in Latin America, particularly like Ecuador, El Salvador, things like that. Watching Trump getting ready to start meddling in Colombia's election. Yeah. He invited his preferred candidate to the Shield of the Americas, and meanwhile didn't invite Colombia to the Shield of the Americas. So that should tell you all you need to know about what's about to happen there. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on now. I'm kind of slowing down a little bit this week. I'm feeling a little bit of burnout, and
we can't have that.
Yeah, no, I did a live today, and it was good. I needed that. Took the break, took the time.
Was it just you, or were you with somebody else, or what?
No, I was with Elizabeth Zillick LaRue. She's
yeah. I know who she is.
Conscientious immigrant.
Yeah, she's down in Mexico.
Yeah, and that was awesome. It was.
I bet.
She's always so upbeat. She has a great smile that'll light up a room.
She's in Mexico, dude.
Yeah, and right. Yeah, she's in Mexico.
She's in Mexico. She didn't have to put up with this shit.
So yeah, no, I needed that because it was a pretty uplifting conversation, and we discussed some things about Latin America and like what people should be prepared for if they try to, immigrate to a foreign country.
Yeah,
being mindful.
Oh, believe me, man, it is. It is a topic of discussion in this household. And the only, aside from, pulling together enough money to hire a lawyer and do it the right way, we still got one kid that's in college.
Right.
He's halfway through So, you know, that dude, we may leave his graduation and head straight to Mexico City.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I'll be honest with you,
He
man.
might still have his cap and gown on, man. I'm not kidding.
I know of a handful of Americans that live in Cuba. There's roughly about 3,000 that live in Havana, and they've been there for a long time. And man, if I didn't have such deep roots like grandkids and my kids and all that stuff, I probably would have left a long time ago for Cuba. And people would be like, Cuba, why Cuba? And I'm like,
and that's the thing,
that's
man.
where my family is.
That everybody else in the world is just suffering and hates their country and wish. And look, people come to America because it's wide open in a lot of ways. And yes, you can get up until lately, you know, you can come here, you can get a good education, and you can take that stuff back home, you know, take care of your people wherever you came from, or you can stay here and do well. And in the last decade or so, that whole business plan or that model has just gotten turned upside down.
Yeah.
But, anyway, man,
real quick to touch on that.
Go for it.
It says something about this country when a bunch of white South Africans
know,
because this country is too violent, it's too expensive, and the quality of life is lesser than it is in South Africa.
These are the guys that Trump let come in,
right?
Because they were being like, you know, abused and
persecuted,
and they went home. They said, you know what? We thought we had it bad, but they might not make it here.
It's like I told Elizabeth earlier today. I'm not sure who's getting slapped in the face there. Like, they got slapped in the face for being stupid, but I feel like they slapped us in the face on the way out. Like, what the fuck?
That is just, boy, that tells the story, does it not? I mean,
right.
I don't know what else needs to be said. I will just say this on the way out. I don't know, maybe in an hour or so, I'm going to drop a deep dive. This is almost on the level of the kind of reports I used to do when I was a subject matter expert on, you know, like disruptive stuff. It's, you know, and I'm doing something a little bit different. I don't paywall pretty much anything, but this is like, you know, burning the midnight oil kind of work. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be immediately available to subscribers. And, you know, in 5 days, it'll unlock and anybody can see it. But, you know, what I've done is I'm creating this sort of a framework where you can just, like, at a glance, you know, look at this chart and it'll tell you, you know, oil, you know, the different points of stress in the global economy. I think it's, you know, pretty good. So hopefully people will think so.
Looking forward to that one.
And anyway, man, it's always fun. It's always fun for us to do this.
Yeah, it is.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of a show with no name. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th, so be careful. I'm giving you a heads up in case you hadn't noticed. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at home. I'm not going anywhere. Okay. But on the other hand, if you got to be out there, you know, keep your head on a swivel for any number of reasons. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate you. And if you can, please subscribe to both our newsletters. And, you know, if you want to support our work, please become a paid subscriber. And we will see you this time next week, Thursday at 6 Eastern. Take care.
Bye, y'all.